We're just sitting here talking about grizzly bears and how terrified we are of them.
Yeah, I don't want anything to do with a grizzly bear.
And that kind of has a little bit to do with what we're going to talk to you guys about on today's video, because we're going to get into western hunting a little bit. That's something we've showed on the channel a little bit in the past. Some of you may know, but me and Ted went out west to Wyoming last fall and hunted out there with the Born and Raised Outdoors guys.
Yeah, that was an awesome hunt.
Yep, and Ted just drew his first elk tag for this year.
Colorado rifle.
Yeah.
So going out there October 16th to 20th, I think, is the season. So
perfect. Jake's got one out there, and Zach lives out there now. Yeah. And I've hunted elk numerous times between New Mexico, Arizona, and Wyoming. And it's one of the things that we get asked about by you guys an awful lot. That's why we decided to do this video. A lot of you are from the Midwest or out east or the Southeast, and you might have questions about how in the heck you go elk hunting. And we wanted to kind of address some of those in today's video. We'll break it down into two parts. The first part will be kind of just our overall strategy for getting elk tags out west. And the second part will be using onX to find elk on the map. If you're gonna go elk hunting out west, especially with COVID and everything that's happened in the last year or two, the amount of people that are putting in for licenses out there is gone through the roof. Like, demand is way up. It's gone up consistently in the last 3 or 4 years, and then you throw COVID on top of it. Tags are getting harder and harder to get out there just because so many people want to go elk hunting. That doesn't mean that you don't have a chance to go elk hunting, but you need to be planning long term ahead on how you're going to get out there and how you're going to do it.
Yeah, and apply as much as you can, probably.
Definitely. And that's how we get elk tags every year. At least we have got them in the last, 3 or 4 years. We've went elk hunting about every year, I think.
Yeah.
Or we've went with close friends that have had tags out there. And the way we do that is we apply in a bunch of different states. There's some over-the-counter states, but those opportunities are becoming more limited and harder to get as demand increases.
Yeah, and I was just unsuccessful this morning with the draw.
Right. You tried to get a leftover tag in Wyoming and didn't draw it.
Third tag, I think, that I've been unsuccessful with either deer, antelope, or elk.
You put in for 3 or 4 elk tags and you drew one of them.
Yeah.
But that's why we're emphasizing the fact that you need to apply in a bunch of different states. I mean, I won't go into all the details. You guys can go and watch tons of other YouTube videos from the Western YouTube channels out there, like Hush, Born and Raised, Randy Newberg. All those guys have gobs and gobs of info on this stuff. But what I will tell you is you better start applying now. And buying preference points in a lot of these states so that you can be ahead of the game. Every single state operates differently. They all have different application deadlines. Some of them are random draws, like New Mexico, for example, is totally random draw. You can put in for it every year. You can't buy preference points, and your odds of drawing fluctuate dependent upon which unit that you put in for.
Yeah, I would say that's the hardest thing, is just keeping track of all the different dates. I mean, even back during turkey season, this isn't with elk, but I know we were trying to apply for deer tags in South Dakota and Kansas and all that stuff. So there's application periods as far back into the spring and then through now, which is July 8th. But
you got to be organized if you're gonna start applying for tags for anything out west or even in the Midwest or out east. You got to be organized and be thinking about this stuff way ahead of time. In Wyoming, where we hunted last year, I had been applying, I hadn't been applying, I've been buying points for 7 years. I had 7 preference points, and the unit usually takes 3 to 5 points, but I didn't want any, gray area in there. I wanted to put in and get the tag for sure. That's why I went ahead and cashed in my points on that particular unit. It's a good thing. You can buy preference points in Wyoming right now. You can buy preference points, you can buy bonus points in Montana, I believe. You can buy points in Colorado. You can buy points in Arizona when you apply for the license. You can't buy them, though, in New Mexico. And I don't know much about, like, Nevada, Utah, Idaho, Washington. I just deal with a handful of different states every year. But that's what you need to do, is pick a handful of different ones and then apply for them. And it costs a lot of money to get in the game to do it.
Yeah, for sure.
Some of these states, like you just got your refund back from Montana.
Yeah, they sent me like a $200 check because I applied for antelope about a month ago, didn't get it, and then they sent my money back. So.
Right. And that's what New Mexico does too. New Mexico will take your money for the entire license that you apply for. So if you're buying a $600-700 elk tag, they're going to take it all, and then they'll refund you later when you don't draw it. And then if you draw it, you obviously get the tag and you're good to go. But every one of these states operates a little bit differently. You're just going to have to, I'm not going to go into detail on every one of them, or we'll be here for 3 hours.
Yeah.
So you need to make a list of the states that you want to look at hunting, and then go into detail on every single one and how they operate. And that's the best strategy that we can give you guys as to how to get elk tags. It's like, don't just pigeonhole yourself into Colorado or Arizona or Montana. You need to be planning ahead for the next 10, 12 years. So if you're in your mid-20s, for example, or you're in college and you think you want to go elk hunting, you need to start saving money and buying these points now. Because if you wait and do that and you're in your late 30s and you've got a family and everything, you may be several years out before you go.
Another thing to think about too is there's the first draw, but then a lot of states, or maybe it's every state, has like a leftover draw or like
Some
a
of them
secondary draw, and that's
Yep.
another thing to be paying attention to because
Yep.
there's different units and different things that you can find in those secondary draws, and that's how I ended up drawing that rifle tag.
Right.
Was through the secondary draw.
Yep. I know a lot of this stuff is real intimidating at first when you get into it, and all this information is coming at you from different directions in every single state, but there are services online that can help you figure this stuff out a little bit quicker. There's a bunch of different ones. OnX has the Top Rut feature on their elite membership, so you would need to buy the elite membership to get access to it. But Top Rut, I think, has like 8 different states where it shows you the draw odds for every unit and like the success rates of the units and things of that nature. So all of that data is pretty helpful. But get organized and start using all of those different resources to get information and plan ahead. The second part of this video is that how do you actually find elk? Once you pick a spot to go, what do you look for on the map? I'm in Wyoming right here on OnX. I've got my elk units layer turned on, which you can do when you go into your layer settings, into the hunt areas. You can pick, like there I've got the antelope hunt area turned on.
They've got the state broke up into different units for each species, whatever you're going after.
Right. So I'm going to kick over in my layer settings into the elk hunting area. And then you can see the breakdown within the state about where all these areas are at and which numbers they are. You know, like area 120, area 19, area 7. And then you can cross-reference a lot of that stuff that you're looking at on the map with your unit draw info and stuff that you find on Top Rut. Just for the purposes of this exercise here, I'm going to zoom into Yellowstone, because everybody knows there's gobs of elk up in Yellowstone. When we're looking for spots to find elk from the map, it's really not much different than deer. You're looking for food, water, and cover. And for elk, any of these consistent mountain streams that are coming off, I'm going to go to the 3D layer real quick. Any of those big streams, rivers, and stuff that are coming from the higher elevations, those are things, those drainages are spots that we immediately go to. And if you find a location that has multiple drainages coming off a mountain with a lot of good dark timber and cover at the top with some valleys and stuff mixed in throughout, that's offering quite a bit of habitat diversity for those elk. And the thing to keep in mind with elk is they live on such a much larger scale than whitetails. So early in the season, elk will be traditionally up high in the dark timber, up maybe even up above timberline towards the tops of those mountains. And then as the season progresses through the month of September and October, they'll slowly start to work down. Because, I mean, it'll start snowing out west up top. Right. And it'll push those elk down in those lower valleys and those lower meadows and stuff. And that's exactly what we saw last year on our Wyoming hunt. I mean, a lot of those elk were quiet on September 1st when the season opened, and they were way up high. But by the day that we killed that bull on the 12th, there was all kinds of elk, a few thousand feet lower, down closer to where we could get at them.
Yeah, they were in like a bachelor group way up top, and
Yeah.
then eventually, when 12 days into season, they were split up and had cows, and
They were bugling and doing their thing. But just in a general sense, you're still looking for some sort of habitat diversity. When you've got that dark timber and you have meadows and little openings and whatnot weaved in throughout, along with multiple drainages in a spot, there's a good chance there's going to be elk there. If you want to go a step further, you can go into your map layers, into the hunt section, I think, and turn on the roadless layer. And that will show you the roadless areas within whatever mountain range or unit that you're looking at. That can also kind of help you determine, pockets where that may be getting less attention. But that's just a few of the basics as far as finding elk goes. I mean, that's what we've used in the past and had good luck finding the elk. Every time I went on an elk hunt out west on public land, we've been able to get into elk and find them pretty easily. The hardest part is just getting the tag. It's like saving up the money to eventually purchase the license and get there. I mean, even if you're going on an over-the-counter hunt, it's no small feat to just pack up and go out there. Like, you got to have all the gear and everything that you need before you leave.
gear is going to cost you some money.
Yep, gear's going to cost you some money, especially if you're doing some backpack hunting and that sort of thing. And then, obviously, the tag is way more expensive than, just your typical resident deer tag in whichever state that you live. You're talking about $500, $600, $700 or north of there. Last year, my elk tag was like $1,300.
Yeah.
Because I drew it in the special draw.
Way up there.
Yeah. So, got to plan for this stuff way ahead of time. But it's a lot of fun. Hunting elk is probably my favorite thing to do. I just don't get to do it all that often. So, plan ahead and get out there.